So when I started this week of cooking, I had actually planned to make 5 meals out of the Wishbone Kitchen cookbook. The recipes are delicious. They are, I would say, pretty complex for weeknight meals. I only ended up making 3 of them, but they were still delicious, and so I wanted to share with you guys. Y'all know that I love cookbooks, and this one has been blowing up lately on TikTok. It's the Wishbone Kitchen cookbook by Meredith Hayden. It says, seasonal recipes for everyday luxury and elevated entertaining. So I'm gonna share with you the 3 meals that I ended up making out of the cookbook, 6 recipes. The first one is pork tacos with roasted peach salsa, really good guac and chips, baked crab mac and cheese. This one was probably the best. PLT salad, and then chive crab cakes and a green salad. So tonight we are going to make the PLT salad, which has a homemade buttermilk ranch. And we're gonna make this delicious looking baked crab mac and cheese. The dogs are barking. So I'm gonna start out by making the buttermilk ranch so that can kind of sit in the fridge and the flavors can combine. So in this bowl, I've got my buttermilk mayo. I also grated a small shallot into there per the recipe directions. And then the zest of 1 lemon. I'm also gonna juice the rest of this lemon into the dressing, and then I need to mince up some chives. About a 1/4 cup of chives you'll need for this dressing. Okay, so I added a little bit of salt and pepper, which I will obviously add more if I need it. So again, ingredients: buttermilk, mayo, chives, 1 lemon zested and juiced, grated shallot, 1 garlic clove that I minced, and salt and pepper. Okay, this turned out so good. I added a little bit of extra pepper. Very like lemony and fresh tasting. So much better than like a jarred or a bottled ranch dressing. So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge. The salad recipe calls for little gem lettuce, which I probably cannot find within a 50-mile radius of me. So I just got this butter crunch lettuce. It says it's already washed, but I'm gonna wash it again in my salad spinner. So next I'll make the crispy prosciutto. So I've got some prosciutto here, and I've got a baking sheet that I line with parchment paper. This is gonna bake in the oven until it's crispy and we can crumble it up for about 9 to 12 minutes. I'm gonna wait for the oven to finish preheating, and then we'll pop this in. So for the mac and cheese, we need some toasted panko. So in this skillet, I've got some olive oil, butter, some garlic, and then I'm gonna add 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs. These are nice and toasty now, so we're just gonna put these into a bowl to cool. I've got a pot started boiling here for the, where's my pasta shells? They're right here. We're gonna use 8 ounces of medium shells. And then I'm gonna make the sauce for the mac and cheese. So in here I've got 2 garlic cloves and a couple tablespoons of butter. We're gonna cook off some flour to make a roux, and then I'm also gonna add in some Sauvignon Blanc wine, half a cup of that. We're gonna use 2 types of cheese. I need to get my milk and cream out of the fridge also. Extra sharp white cheddar and Gruyere. And then the crab that I'm using is this chicken, it's chicken of the sea brand, but it's hand-packed wild-caught crab, lump crab meat. So I need to drain this off. I'm gonna add in my flour. Okay, so I actually used 3 different types of cheese. Parmesan is the one that I did not mention, along with the Gruyere and the white cheddar. So we're gonna add some chives, and then I think I need to add some Dijon. Okay, so lemon zest was the other thing. So I've got the zest of 1 lemon, some Dijon, added a little bit of salt. I'm gonna whisk this up and give it a taste, and my pasta is almost done. Okay, I'm gonna add my crab meat, stir this without breaking it up too much, and then I'm just going to transfer it back into this pan to bake. All right, so I added the breadcrumbs. Oh, this is heavy. Okay. I put this in the oven for about 25 minutes. Okay, so our prosciutto is done and crispy. So I'm just gonna kind of break this into pieces and put it into a bowl here so we can use it with our salad. So here's what that crab mac and cheese looks like when it came out of the oven. You want to let it sit for like 10 to 15 minutes just to kind of cool down before you scoop it out. I had all my salad fixings here. So that crispy prosciutto, I added some green onion, our buttermilk ranch, and then some avocado as well. I did really like the salad. The dressing itself is very tart and lemony and not so much like a traditional ranch. So just keep that in mind if you make this recipe, and I'll link the cookbook down below if you guys want to check it out. Overall, I would say that the crab mac and cheese was delicious. And this is kind of a personal preference thing, but if I make it again, I am definitely not going to put so many panko breadcrumbs on top because I feel like it sort of interferes with the creaminess of the mac and cheese. And this recipe would also be really good without the crab as just a plain mac and cheese. Okay, so I am home this week, and one of the things that I really love about being home is cooking dinner for my family every night, second only to sleeping in my very own bed. And I have a Helix mattress, which makes it even sadder for me when I am on travel because I don't get to sleep on my Helix mattress. And Adam texts me every single morning. He's like, "Good morning, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, my back hurts, my neck hurts. I need to get home and sleep in my own bed." But today's video is sponsored by Helix, and I have had a Helix mattress for years. In fact, everyone in my house has a Helix mattress, and every time anyone asks me, "I need a new mattress, what kind of mattress should I get?" I always say Helix. It is so easy to go on their site. You just take a sleep quiz to find out which mattress is best for you. They will match you and your partner, if you have a partner, with the best mattress for you. The mattress comes right to your door, rolled up in a box. It is literally the most convenient thing I have ever done. Gone are the days where we have to go into the mattress store and buy a mattress, which is like literally the most inconvenient thing ever. Helix makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs, and they actually offer 20 unique mattresses to choose from. And I talked to you guys last time about the Helix mattress topper that I just got, which is also fantastic. So not only do we have a Helix mattress, but we have the topper on top of it, which makes the bed even more comfortable and supportive. Helix also offers free shipping, and like I said, they deliver your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US, and there's also a 100-night sleep trial to test the mattress out and ensure that you love it. 82% of participants saw an increase in their deep sleep cycle in Helix's Whisper sleep study. Like I mentioned, we also got the premium mattress topper, which I freaking love. It is so supportive and it makes me feel refreshed every time I wake up in the morning. So whether you're looking for a new mattress or if you're just looking to make your existing mattress much more comfortable, you can check out both Helix's mattresses and toppers. I'll have a link in the description box below. Helix is having their July sale and they're offering 27% off site-wide. That is such a significant discount. So once again, check out that link in the description box below, helixsleep.com/Jen Chapin. Or if you're on the phone, you can tap the little bubble on the screen right here. Make sure you guys take advantage of this awesome sale. And thank you again to Helix for partnering with me on a video here on my channel. So tonight we are having the pork tacos with roasted peach salsa. So there's actually two salsa recipes that go with this. There is a roasted peach salsa and then a tomatillo salsa verde. So I've already made those yesterday and the day before, so I'll show you how I did that here in a bit. But what I want to do now is get the pork ready to be cooked because dinner will be in about 4.5 hours. Now, Meredith says to roast this pork in the oven. However, I'm just going to go ahead and cook it in the slow cooker. It's summertime here and I don't want to leave the oven on all day long, so I think it'll work just fine. I'm using a little bit of a smaller pork roast than she is, so I cut down the rub a little bit because I didn't want it to be too salty. So in this measuring cup here, I just have a 1/4 cup of salt and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and then we're just gonna rub this all over the pork before we put it in the slow cooker. If you've never cooked with tomatillos before, they're actually pretty easy to use and they are not tomatoes. They look like little green tomatoes, but they are not. They are much more tart. So what you want to do is peel the paper off, wash them, and then put them in a saucepan with all of the other ingredients for the salsa. So I put some onion in there, some garlic, and then some jalapenos. I think next time when I make this salsa, I am not going to use as many jalapenos because it was quite spicy. And I'm a person that likes spice, but I think 4 jalapenos was too much. So you want to boil these for about 10 minutes until all the ingredients are soft. And then we're going to blend these up in the food processor, but you do want to let them cool a little bit first. So I'm just using a slotted spoon to remove those from the water, and then save the water because we're going to use a little bit of that in the food processor to thin out the salsa itself. And then once everything is cool, you can just dump it into a food processor. You will need like a larger, regular sized food processor for this. The smaller one that I have probably wouldn't work, or you could also use a blender. I'm going to add in a healthy dose of salt. And then this looks like a ton of cilantro, which it kind of is, but I love cilantro, so definitely not opposed to that in this recipe. And then you basically just want to pulse this until everything is pureed together. And then, like I said, thin it out by adding a little bit of that cooking water to your desired consistency. You can probably add up to half a cup if you need it. Obviously, it's going to depend on how large your tomatillos are. They vary in size. And then, like I said, I tasted this and it was quite spicy. And so I had the idea, what if I threw some avocado in there to kind of tone down the spice level a little bit? And it worked great. So I did make a note in my cookbook that I added avocado. So next time I make this, I'll either tone down the jalapeno or add avocado, but tomatillo salsa is great. I love it on tacos, quesadillas, burrito bowls. It's also really good on breakfast burritos. And so we had this in the fridge for quite a while to use for a lot of different things. The next thing I'm making is the roasted peach salsa. So I roasted the peaches ahead of time and kind of chopped up all of the other ingredients and just had them in the fridge so that when I was ready to make this, it would be super quick and easy. So I dumped all of those ingredients into my food processor along with a splash of apple cider vinegar. And this peach salsa is so good. I don't think I've ever made peach salsa before. I've made mango salsa quite a few times, but never peach. And the peach flavor of the salsa does go really well with these pork tacos. The meat ended up being quite salty, which I'll explain that here in a little bit. But you want to pulse this, not puree it. So you still kind of want those chunks of peaches in there and onion and jalapeno and garlic and all of the other ingredients. So I just went ahead and popped that into a container, labeled it, and this will keep for a week in the fridge. This is the pork roast I got. It's a boneless pork shoulder butt roast. A lot of times you'll find them as a shoulder roast or a butt roast. I got the boneless one, so I didn't have to worry about the bone. Her recipe calls for a 6 to 8 pound, and this one is a 4 pound. So I've got my slow cooker set on high, and I went ahead and removed the netting from the meat. If you're gonna, typically that's the netting is on there to keep the meat together if you're gonna roast it in the oven, but since we're gonna shred this anyway, make much sense to cook it with the netting on. So I'm just gonna sprinkle half of this brown sugar mixture top, turn it over, and then we'll go ahead and put the lid on and cook this. It'll probably, like I said, take about 4 hours on high. You don't need any liquid in here because there's plenty of liquid in the meat, and there's gonna be obviously some fat that cooks out and stuff like that. When you make pulled pork in the slow cooker, I always recommend you use like a butt or a shoulder roast instead of a loin roast. Loin roasts are really lean, and you can make shredded pork out of them, but it'll be a little bit dry. It's kind of just a preference thing. You still can do it. All right, so lid on this, and we'll just let this cook away. Now that the pork is in the slow cooker, we're gonna make this guacamole recipe. Really good guac. So this recipe is kind of interesting in that it calls for basically kind of like to make this paste out of all of the herbs and things like that. So I've got some fresh cilantro here. I'm gonna use the juice of 1 lime. I've also zested the lime before I cut it in half. 2 garlic cloves, and 1 jalapeno roughly chopped. To puree everything, I'm gonna use my little mini Cuisinart food processor. This isn't the best for all applications. Obviously, if you're making like a larger recipe of something, this isn't gonna work. But I do love this little food processor for things like this because it's so much easier to wash. You don't have to drag your big food processor out. So I've got my cilantro in there, garlic, jalapeno. I'm gonna juice my lime. This actually seems like a pretty juicy lime. And I'm just gonna add the lime zest. And we'll just whiz this up. I'm gonna have to scrape down the sides a little bit and just puree it up just to make sure I don't have any big chunks. So that's what we're looking at. I'm gonna set this aside and then we'll prep the avocados. I bought these a couple days ago and they weren't quite ripe, and let them sit on the counter. Woo, look at that. I haven't had good luck with avocados recently, so. All right, I think we did pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna scoop these avocados into this bowl. I sprinkled some salt in here, and then I just like to use my potato masher to mash up the avocado. So we're just gonna mash this until it's smooth and then add in some of that cilantro, garlic, jalapeno paste. So the last step is just to add in a little bit of chopped onion or shallot, and I'm gonna add a touch more lime juice just because I feel like it needs it. Obviously you can season to your taste. All right, so here's our guacamole all done. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the fridge, let the flavors combine, and we'll have this with some chips with our tacos for dinner. Turned out super, super delicious. Okay, so our pork is done. It's nice and tender. I'm gonna try to take it out of the slow cooker in one piece and put it in this bowl so we can let it cool for a little bit and shred it. I put the broth from the crock pot into a fat separator so I can pour back in the liquid without getting all of that fat. And I actually have a little bit of pork over here that isn't quite falling apart yet. So I'm just gonna use these, this part in the slow cooker right here for dinner tonight, since it's just Adam and I eating. The kids are gone. And then once we're done with dinner, I'll go ahead and put that other big piece of pork back in to the slow cooker to cook a little bit more so I can make sure that it falls apart like I want it to. I went ahead and got all of our fixings out of the fridge for the tacos. The peach salsa does taste better as it sits in the fridge for a little bit. The tomatillo salsa, super good. I will definitely be making this recipe again. And then the guacamole turned out so good as well. I will definitely be using that technique again as well of kind of pureeing those aromatics together. I warmed up my tortillas in a skillet and then I'm making my tacos up. So the only, I would say, critique that I have of this recipe is that the salt listed in the recipe that you rub the pork with is way, way too much. I think I actually cut down the salt by 2/3 of what the recipe said, and I had like half the size of a roast that was listed in the book. So if you make this recipe, definitely cut down on the salt. I also think it was kind of odd just to season the pork with salt and brown sugar and no other spices. So I would definitely make this again, but I would kind of modify those seasonings a little bit for sure. Next up, we are making what Meredith says is the most difficult recipe in the book, which is the chive crab cakes. And on the side, I'm going to make this green salad recipe, which just has a very simple vinaigrette. So you want to start these crab cakes actually the day before by making the roux mixture that you're going to mix with the crab meat to kind of bind the crab cakes together. So I'm just sauteing some shallot in a little bit of butter, and I'm going to let that cook down until the shallot gets soft and whisk in some flour. Basically, you're going to make like a really kind of thick paste of a roux by adding some milk, and then we will cool it and mix it with the crab meat, shape the crab cakes, and then go ahead and fry them off the next day because they do need to sit in the fridge for a little bit. So this is what that roux is going to look like when you're done. You just take it out, put it in a bowl and let it cool. And then after it's completely cool, you can add some Dijon mustard, 1 egg yolk, some lemon zest, and then some salt, and then go ahead and stir that together until everything is well combined. Make sure that you cool this obviously before you add the egg yolk, or you will end up with scrambled egg. And then I just went ahead and put in 2 cans of that crab meat. You can get this, or at least I can get this in the Midwest. It is in the refrigerated seafood section. This is pretty expensive where I live. Not gonna lie, it is a bit of a luxury item, but it's the best, I would say the best and freshest way for me, someone who lives in a landlocked state, to be able to get good quality crab. So I just mixed everything all together with some more chopped chives. Meredith loves a chive, as I've noticed cooking through this, cooking through these recipes. I shaped the crab into 6 patties, and I just put them on some saran wrap to keep them from sticking to the baking sheet. Put these in the fridge for a day. And then when I'm ready to make the crab cakes, I just set out my breading station. So flour, egg, and some panko breadcrumbs. And then obviously you're just going to bread these just like you would any other, chicken parm or croquette or anything like that. So take the crab, dip it in the flour, shake off the excess, put it in the egg, let the excess drip off, and then add the breadcrumbs on top. And then the last thing you want to do is put these back in the fridge for about 15 minutes just to kind of let the coating set. And I'm going to prepare all of the ingredients that I'm going to need for the lemon beurre blanc sauce. Why am I making beurre blanc on a weeknight? I have no freaking idea, because I thought this would be fun, I guess. You want to make sure that you have all your ingredients out. And then once I had that done, I went ahead and made the vinaigrette for the salad. So this vinaigrette recipe actually calls for champagne vinegar. I do not have champagne vinegar in any grocery store around me, and I did order some from Amazon, but it wasn't here yet by the time I made this recipe. So I just used white wine vinegar, and it was fine. Put all the ingredients into a mason jar and shook that up. This is the best way to combine dressing, in my opinion. And then you can stick it in the fridge and chill it until it's time to eat. I had a mixture of romaine as well as some Bib lettuce for this salad. So I just washed up my lettuce and got that dry. And then once my crab cakes are ready to fry, I just probably put about 3/4 of an inch of oil in my skillet, and I'm going to add those crab cakes to there. They don't take long to cook, maybe like 4 to 6 minutes on each side. Obviously the crab meat is already cooked, so you just want to make sure that they're crispy and everything is heated through. I'm going to very carefully try to check on these and flip them over. I did end up breaking a few of them, but at the end of the day, they were still intact and everything was fine. And then at this point, I have my oven set to 200 degrees with a wire rack so that I can transfer those crab cakes when they're done to the oven to keep warm while I do the last thing, which is make the beurre blanc sauce. So this takes quite a while to make. It's one of those like classic sauces where you have to stand there and whisk the butter in tablespoon by tablespoon by tablespoon until everything is combined. Is it a delicious sauce? Of course. It's got, butter, shallot, what's in it? White wine, vinegar, lemon juice, lemon zest, cream, lots of butter. Obviously, it's a very delicious sauce. It is quite a bit of work, and it does have kind of the propensity to break or separate. Mine did not separate. I just kept, whisking this over low heat as I added the butter tablespoon by tablespoon. You can see kind of there how the color changes. And then once all of the butter is whisked in is when you add your lemon zest and your lemon juice. Now listen, I love a good lemon sauce. I think a good lemon sauce is delicious with a crab cake. However, if you want to make this recipe, I would say definitely make the crab cake recipe as is. That part was super delicious. Probably the best crab cake I've ever had or ever made. The sauce is extra. Next time I make these, I'm probably just going to make like a lemon aioli or some type of like lemon dill tartar sauce, because to me it tastes just as good on the crab cakes. But I put the beurre blanc sauce on the plate, added the crab cake on top with a little bit of fresh dill, and these were so good. And actually, Connor had been asking me to make crab cakes. He really likes crab cakes, and so he was super happy about this dinner. But you can see they're nice and tender on the inside, all of that fresh crab meat in there with the chives, lemon, all of that good stuff. And this salad is also very good. Obviously a very classically you know, just plain dressed salad, but it really went well with those rich crab cakes. So if you guys want to pick up this cookbook, I will link it down in the description box below. Although the recipes are a little bit complex, it is really fun to cook through and the recipes are delicious. And also don't forget to check out Helix's sale that they're having right now. You can also click on that link in the description box below to grab your discount.